How do you think that has impacted your personal life?
Got a lot more energy, can do a lot more things, feel more confident in yourself. I mean, when you're out of shape or you're not exercising and training, you'll tend to be a lot more tired. When you're eating the wrong food, your energy levels are down. So I just think it gives you a lot more drive and energy. And for me, the number one factor for me is being an example to my kids.
How do you find the motivation or build up the discipline to turn up to the gym?
For me, it's just taking the first step. You've got to start off small. Where most people go wrong is jump in too fast. I enjoy going to the gym, to be honest with you. So for me, it wasn't going to the gym's not the chore. The harder part for me was the food. So yes, we've had to make a lot of changes, especially with being used to Asian foods.
How do you recommend individuals to set and track their goals?
For me, it's very important to write things down, because then you've got something to remind you of why you're doing it, what you want to achieve and why.
Hello everyone, today we have a guest who is a fitness enthusiast and a professional in the industry who has had a lot of successful clients stories where people with a lot of weight have been able to lose weight in a short period of time, and similar with muscle gaining as well. And he's here to share with us how you can improve your lives with a good fitness routine, which can help you with your own personal life. So be sure to stay tuned, because that's all we're going to cover today. Abdul, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
I want to start by getting into what led you into this fitness industry.
So basically, when I was younger, I've always been into sports, athletics. Done karate when I was younger, then that led me on to boxing when I was in my teenage years. I think I was about 13 when I started boxing. So I've got three brothers, so there's four of us and we were all boxers. So for our teenage years, we were always fitness, always competitive. So it's just basically, it's always been in us. Fast forward into our 20s, got married, had children, got to 32, I was quite out of shape. Ended up like dad bod, what you say. So anyway, one day I was just sat on the edge of my bed, looked at myself and I thought, what are you doing? Like, I think it was my daughter or one of my sons had said something like, Daddy, why is your belly so big? And it's something like that just hit home. It was like, what are you doing to yourself? Like, I was always used to being like quite slim, always in an athletic body on me. So it was I think I was exactly 32. I think there's a picture on my Instagram profile. And then from that day, I just thought, I'm just going to focus on changing. And it hasn't been like a straightforward story. It's, you go through a phase, you'll get so far, and then you might have a knockback, and, you know, different things come in your way in life. But I've just continued to like keep going forward with the fitness, making sure I'm training all the time. Even when I was out of shape, I was training, but eating the wrong foods. And this is where a lot of people tend to go wrong. They think they can out-train a bad diet, which for me, it was from having a boxing background. Yeah, when we were young, we were training that much, we were active, you used to walk to school, so people forget they think because they're older, that's why they're not losing weight. But it's not, it's because when you were younger, you were a lot more active. So for example, we used to walk to school, you know, everyone didn't have cars in them days. We used to go to the gym, walk to the boxing gym, we'd go for a run beforehand, train, so you were constantly active, so you could get away with eating whatever you want. And that led up until, like I said, into our 20s, because we were training, it didn't really affect us. So in theory, we were out training a bad diet, but we were way out training it. Once we got to the age of like having children and being at that age where you're sort of sat at home with the kids watching TV, you're not as active, you're driving to work, you're not walking, so your activity levels really drop, but your food intake goes up because we get lazy, we start to have takeaways, you start on tea and biscuits on an evening, and these things just crept up on you. So by the time I got to 32, I was just way out of shape, and it was like starting from scratch again, because the things you could do when you were younger, you can't do that now. So just from there, just started to work on it, and just as I was working offshore at this time. So as I was working offshore, I just started studying diet, nutrition. Again, like I said, even though we were fit when we were younger, we didn't have all the information you've got on the internet now. So you didn't have the information about diet, nutrition. Now you go on TikTok, Instagram, everyone's feeding you information. Them days you never. So basically learning from scratch. And just believe me, I've tried every fad diet out there and not one of them works. It's a case of sticking to the basics, being in a calorie deficit, doing regular exercise, and just being consistent.
You mentioned when you got married, got kids, you got out of shape. I know a lot of people, myself included, guilty of it. When I got married, just after it, I found myself gaining a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And it's not just me. I've seen my friends in my circle as well. I've seen them get married. Eventually, you see them with a bigger belly. Why do you think that is?
We get comfortable. You've got one. I think it's just like I said. The main thing is your activity levels drop, and your food intake increases without. So when you get married, what's the first thing you're going to do with your missus? On a couple of times a week, you go out for a meal. You'll order a takeaway, movie night. You just tend to relax. So I think you just tend, like I said, your activity levels drop, food intake goes up. So you just get comfortable. And then at the same time, when you're not married, you might be looking for a partner. So you want to be in good shape. Once you're married, you're not really bothered. So you tend to just fall into that pattern.
Perhaps too.
Yeah.
How do you think your physical fitness, you're in great shape now, how do you think that has impacted your personal life?
Got a lot more energy. You can do a lot more things, feel more confident in yourself. I mean, when you're out of shape or you're not exercising and training, you'll tend to be a lot more tired. When you're eating the wrong food, your energy levels are down. So I just think it gives you a lot more drive and energy. And for me, the number one factor for me is to be an example to my kids. You've got to look at like your kids. For example, Asians, we tend to blame diabetes on genetics, when in reality it's not genetics, it's culture. So we follow the same pattern our parents. So our parents have grew up eating tea and biscuits after most meals. It's an Asian thing. You go to an Asian household, they put tea and biscuits in front of you. So that spikes insulin. And then if you look at our diet, we've got the highest rate of diabetes for a reason, and it always boils back to our diet. But we like to blame it on genetics when it's not actually genetics. It's the culture that we follow. And so if we don't change it now, our children are going to fall into the same pattern, and that increase in diabetes in the Asian culture is just going to continue to increase, isn't it?
That's actually so true. A lot of people, Asians especially, blame genetics.
Honestly, the amount of people I get, I've had clients come to me and they're like on the verge of getting diabetes or they're, pre-diabetic. And once we put them on a good training plan, a good diet plan, they'll go back to the doctor and their insulin levels are back to normal. Now, if they'd never took that step to start the journey, improve their health, they would have eventually ended up diabetic. So it's just like, it just shows that it is your diet that's a massive factor in it, and especially the Asian diet.
That's true. For a person who builds up the discipline to turn up to the gym every day, to eat healthy food like you just suggested, have a good routine and time around that, do you think that can impact their career to impact it positively?
Oh yeah, definitely. The more positive you look, the more positive you're going to feel, the more positive energy you're going to give off. At the end of the day, if you're walking around, like, if you look at most these people out there, like these influencers who are successful and they're doing well, every one of them will have a gym routine in their lifestyles somewhere along the line. Do you know what I mean? And they'll be eating decent food, eating clean diet. It's just, you are what you eat. If you eat good, you're going to feel good. If you eat poor, you're going to feel poor. It's as simple as that. That's truly what I believe.
That's true. How do you find the motivation or build up the discipline to turn up to the gym?
So for me, it's just taking the first step. You've got to start off small. But where most people go wrong is they jump in too fast. So they'll wake up on a Monday morning and think, right, I'm going to start training this week. And they'll go try and change the diet, trying to exercise, going out walking. They try to do it all in one go. They'll last a few days, maybe it's a week. The weekend will come. They'll have a binge or fall off the wagon. And then by Monday, they've give up again. So it's just a case of like taking small steps. Start off maybe like the first week, let's introduce some cleaner foods into our diet. If you know you're having a takeaway 3 or 4 times a week, let's think, right, next week I'm just going to reduce it and have a takeaway once a week. Then the following week, right, this week I'm going to stick to one takeaway a week, but I'm going to also start going for a walk on an evening. And it's just little steps like that. Then the following week, I'll join the gym. And if you build up into it, it's a lot easier to sustain. It's just making it sustainable and fitting it into your lifestyle.
But then doing that every single day, constantly, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, how do you keep that motivation ongoing?
It's just consistency, isn't it? When you do something consistently, it becomes a habit. They say it takes 21 days to break a habit or create a habit. So at the end of the day, if you do something consistently for that time, it just becomes a norm. You know, a typical example is I needed to increase my steps recently. So I thought, rather than me going out my way to do it, just instead of going to the gym in the car, which is like a 30-minute walk, I'll walk there, walk back, still got my gym session, and it hasn't taken too much time out of my day. I was probably stuck in traffic for 15 minutes anyway, so in reality, I've used the same amount of time to do an extra task what I would have done anyway, but I'd have been sat in the car. So it's just little things like that.
How important is it, do you think, to set up targets and or to find a reason to turning up to the gym?
Very important. You need a reason. You know, one of the things I always say to my clients is when they're starting to go, yeah, you've got to go, like say, for example, if you want to lose 10 kilo, why do you want to lose 10 kilo? What will it mean to you? Do you know, like, there's got to be a reason. Like when I was 32-year-old and my daughter said, well, that was the reason to me. I don't want someone to say to me, why have you got a belly? Especially my daughter or my son, do you know, like, so, and if they say you're with a belly, then they're going to end up following suit and thinking that that's the norm. So for me, it's just to be an example to your kids more than anything.
It's interesting you say that, because that why factor can basically impact anything and everything in your life. Like, for example, if your house, God forbid, was on fire, if someone was to offer you £1,000 to go in there, you wouldn't do it for £1,000. You wouldn't risk your life for it. Yeah. If you had your phone in there, you wouldn't risk your life for a phone.
No.
But if someone's kids were in there, anyone, like the parent would go in there because there's a strong why factor there.
Yeah.
So that's quite important when it comes to maintaining a healthy lifestyle as well.
That's why we always say, what is your why? You've got to have a reason for, you know, wanting something. Otherwise, you're unlikely to achieve it. You know, you've got no determination to achieve that. It's the same with anything like a business. If someone's got a business goal, there'll be an incentive at the end of it. Yeah, they're going to make X amount of money, or they can retire early, or whatever. They'll have a goal, like something in the mind, what they can achieve from it to get a certain car. It's the same aspect with business and fitness, I think.
But what if someone doesn't have a why? He's just a fatso sitting on a couch, not really giving a shit about life, doesn't care about a career, but knows he needs to lose weight and get in shape.
There's plenty of people out there like that. I've had people who sign up to do training with me like that, and in reality, there's not much you can do for them. You can try, you can motivate them. You do get the odd people who are like that, but if someone doesn't want the help, it's going to be very difficult for you. You know, the person who's chasing that goal has got to want it more than you have. Even though when we have clients, like, I want them to achieve the goal just as much as they do, because I've got a why, because it better, if they achieve the goal, it looks good for me on my profile. People know that I've helped them achieve that goal. But so I've got my reason for them to want to achieve the goal, if that makes sense. So they've got to want to have a reason of why. Otherwise, you're never going to, and the first hurdle you hit, you're going to throw the towel in. And on these journeys, you will hit hurdles along the way. You know, I've constantly had, like, for example, if on your weight loss journey, I went recently this year, so January I was 88 kilo. I was going to Bali in February, at the end of February, so I wanted to get at least 8 kilo off. Got that off, got down to 80, and then come back, put nearly, and I wouldn't say all of it, but nearly enough, the full amount back on, and then just drifted a bit. Then I was like, what are you doing? You've got that off. So then it was a new goal, so you just got to constantly keep setting yourself reasons and targets. And then I'm back, like now I'm floating around 74 kilo, so it's, you just got to keep giving yourself a reason why and keep setting targets to go for.
The clients who approach you may not have a why. How do you help them find the why reason?
So basically, when someone does approach us, first thing we do is a consultation call with them. So basically on that consultation call, even when someone doesn't say they don't have a why, They do, because they're on that phone for a reason. They've made that, taking that first step, you must have a why. You don't just randomly just think one day, oh, well, I'm just going to go and sign up to a training. There's a reason. You either feel uncomfortable. You know, you'll get people who say, oh, I'm not bothered, I'm fat and happy, or whatever. You know, you hear that saying, but deep down they're not. You know, if they've picked up that phone to ring you, they've definitely got a reason why. They just don't know it. So it's just a case of speaking to them, asking them things about the past, what's made them pick up the phone. There's always a reason. It might be they were at an event and they couldn't find an outfit that fitted, or they might have gone to a theme park with their kids and they couldn't get on a ride. Or, there's always something that's triggered that move, but people tend not to talk about it until you speak to them and you dig a bit deeper. Sometimes a client might not even open up on the consultation call, but they'll still go ahead. I know deep down that they've still got a reason why. They're just too shy to say, or they're subconsciously just blocking it out. So it's a case of you just keep digging and you just keep helping them, and eventually they will admit it and they'll say, oh, really, this was why I done it. Just like what I've said to you about myself. Mum was, my daughter saying to me, oh, you've got a belly. It's like, I think before I was in shape, I wouldn't have said that, but as you get more confident and you look back and that's a past now, so you're not scared to say it. Do you know what I mean? So
there is some sort of underlying insecurity.
Yeah, there's always an underlying. Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, you're not going to pick up the phone, are you, and take that first step.
Do you think there are any specific habit routines that you have implemented in your life that help you maintain this healthy physique?
Just basically, the main one is going to the gym regular. Like, I enjoy going to the gym, to be honest with you. So for me, it wasn't going to the gym's not the chore. The harder part for me was the food. So yes, we've had to make a lot of changes, especially with being used to Asian foods like chapatis. And so, for example, I'll switch out. I won't have chapatis every day because the amount of calories in it. I'll switch it for rice with curry, and then once a week I might have chapatis. So you can still eat what you want, but in moderation. So it's just creating them habits as you go along the way.
Earlier you mentioned you had a one plate rule when you went to events and stuff like that. Do you have other rules like that?
Yeah, so again, if you know you're going out, especially an Asian event, an Asian wedding, you'll know yourself what it's like. You get there and the food's just all over the table. So you've just got to learn to manage it and stick to a one plate rule. And it's something I found difficult myself. But if you've got one plate, you put what you want on it. As long as you stick to that one plate, you're not going to go far wrong with your calories. But it's just, it's having the discipline to stick to that. And again, you've got to remember your why. Why are you sticking to this rule? Why are you sacrificing? Because you're always going to, again, at these events, you're always going to have people saying, oh, it's all right, one day off's not going to hurt you. But they haven't worked hard to get to that goal. So them saying that's all right, but it's not going to really benefit you. It's not going to benefit them. It's just easy to say it, isn't it?
So if you're trying to cut in weight, do you starve yourself?
No, wouldn't starve myself. The worst thing you can do is starve yourself, because you starving yourself, how long are you going to starve yourself for? So say, for example, I hear a lot of people these days talking about intermittent fasting. Oh, well, I just intermittent fast. But what they really mean, they starve themselves all day so they can eat on an evening. But when it comes to the evening, you will have that first meal and you spike that hunger, and they'll just end up binge eating. And the amount of people that have said it to me and they're still out of shape, and it's like, they say, I'm intermittent fasting, but I can't lose weight. Because you're still eating too many calories. It doesn't matter about when you eat, or it's more about how many calories you eat, if that makes sense. So as long as your calories are either spread out through the day, or if you have them in one go, as long as you're within that calorie deficit, you're still going to lose weight. But starving yourself, I think, is just the worst way to do it, because you're just going to, like you said, you're going to binge, and you might do it for 2 or 3 days, and then you'll just end up going on a weekend and just eating like crazy, and you're back. It's just a vicious circle.
Yeah. Earlier I mentioned to you off camera that I found myself in a phase during COVID. I gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But I lost about 10 kilos through intermittent fasting. Yeah. So I still keep that up, but it's slightly a variation to it. So I don't eat anything, no carbs, from the moment I wake up till 6 p.m. But in the afternoon, if I'm feeling a bit hungryish, I'll have fruits. and I drink lots of coffee. But then at 6 p.m. I have good healthy protein and a bit of carbs, and that keeps me going. And then at night, maybe before bed, if I'm craving something, then I'll have maybe a protein bar or something like that. So that's helped me so far over the last 18 months.
It does. You're right. But if you look at it, paleo diet, any other diet, the Atkins diet, they'll all do this for you. But why? Because every one of them diets is creating a deficit. Now, you said you only eat at these times, but when you've described what you're eating, you were still in a deficit.
Yes.
If you were intermittent fasting and you were not in a deficit, you were not going to lose weight. So we'll do Ramadan once a year. Now, during Ramadan, I've been through phases in Ramadan where I've put on weight. Now, we're literally eating for 2 or 3 hours in the night. But if you're eating a pizza, which is what we used to do back in the day, you sit with the lads, you go to the mosque, come back, sit there and eating a pizza, watching TV, having chips, and then you've gone way over your calories. So you come at the end of the month and you've put on weight. So again, it's just, even with intermittent fasting, I do intermittent fasting a lot of the time purely because I like to eat bigger meals. So I can eat a bigger meal in that window, but within an 8-hour window or 6-hour window, whichever one you give yourself, you can eat more food. Where if you spread it out right through the day, you're going to be restricting yourself to smaller meals. So it just depends what mood I'm in at the time. It's like I can jump between the two. If I think I'm fancy a nice big meal today, I'll do intermittent fasting. If I wake up on the morning and I'm hungry, then I'll just have breakfast. But I'll just make sure you're tracking your calories.
So it's simple. It seems like it's black and white. Either you're in calorie deficit or surplus. Doesn't matter what you eat most of the time.
That's it, yeah.
Black and white. Do you think intermittent fasting is sustainable for long periods of time?
Yeah, I know a lot of people who do it and they've stuck to it for years. And it's definitely sustainable, but it just depends on the individual and the personality type. Like, have you got the willpower to stick to it? Are you going to stick to that eating window? Because if you're one of these people who, say, for example, your eating windows from 10 in the morning until 6 p.m. So it comes to 6 p.m, you've stopped eating. Then one of your friends comes and picks you up, go for a drive, and you end up getting something to eat at 8 p.m. You've not stuck to your...
No.
So you've just got to have that discipline to be able to, sustain it. But yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely works. It's definitely got benefits, but it's, again, you've just got to be... If your goal is weight loss, be in a deficit. If your goal is maintenance, you need to be in maintenance calories. And again, if you want to build muscle, you'll need to be in a bit of a surplus.
I read a book called The Atomic Habits that taught me a lot about the 21-day cycle you spoke of earlier.
Yeah.
But also mentioned something very interesting. You're in a habit because there's always a cue first, cue that happens that triggers your craving, and then you action it, and then there's a reward towards it. So when I decided I wanted to cut on my weight, the first thing I did was, what are my cues? So if I see, especially when I'm back from work and I'm chilling on the sofa watching TV, that's when I'll crave some sugary stuff.
Yeah.
So it's either the TV or me having sugary stuff at home. So what do I replace? I don't want to stop watching TV at night if I'm just relaxing. So I had to remove all the junk at home. So I don't store junk at home.
I'm doing exactly the same myself. 100% now. So for me, if I want a bar of chocolate, which I like chocolate, I have to walk to Tesco. I won't keep it in the house.
Yeah.
Because if it's in the house, it's going to be easy go-to.
Yes.
Now, that, again, what you've just mentioned, comes back to intermittent fasting. Build your window to suit your lifestyle. So if you like to eat on an evening, I would recommend, if you're intermittent fasting, make sure your eating window fits within that evening so you can still enjoy your food then, if that makes sense. If you're one of these people who's not really into eating on an evening, then have your food through the day when you prefer to eat it at that time.
That's a good point. Yeah. How do you recommend individuals to set and track their goals?
So for setting your goals, write it down. Have it visual. I mean, if you've got a goal, have a vision board's a good way to do it. Or if you've got a certain physique you want to achieve, I always say to people, put a picture of it on your fridge or on your wall or something, so you know that's what I mean. Even as your screensaver, and it's for me, it's very important to write things down, because then you've got something to remind you of why you're doing it, what you want to achieve, and why.
How do you track it then? Say you want to lose 10 kilograms, for example. So if
you're wanting to lose 10 kilograms, as in, do you mean tracking your calories or?
Yeah.
So if you want to track your calories, it's a case of, to start with, you're going to have to weigh and measure your foods. Now, a lot of people use MyFitnessPal, so they'll put the calories in there. Now, even that can be wrong. I've seen a lot of people go wrong with these apps. So for me, for my personal tracking, I'll read the label on the food. Best way and the safest way. Because if you type in on MyFitnessPal, I've had a chicken and rice. Now it'll give you about 10 different options. And what's the first thing most people will do? They'll go for the lowest calorie option.
Yeah.
So if you are using MyFitnessPal, always select the highest. It's always better to overestimate than underestimate your calories. So it's just, for me, for tracking, it's a case of, with my clients, I get them to send me pictures of the food. So we use WhatsApp and I just say, fire me over if you're having something that's not on the plan. Because if they're on plan, they'll just be going by the measurements that we've given them for the food. But if they're off plan, if they have something off plan, just send us a picture. And if I see and I'll look at it and say, right, in future, remove that and replace that or swap that for that. And then it's just guiding them like that.
So it's about tracking your calories, putting in the work, measuring your weight. Would you say do that daily, weekly?
I check my weight daily. Now, it depends on the individual here. If you're one of these people that's going to get, have problems by checking your weight, it's going to affect your mental health. Because, so I've come across clients who it does really affect them. So then it's a case of we'll just check your weight once a week, just purely to see if we are moving in the right direction. But most people, I would definitely recommend checking your weight on a daily basis.
Do you think exercise helps with stress?
Yeah, definitely. Exercise releases the happy hormones in your body, so at the end of the day, it definitely helps with stress relief. I don't know many people who walk in the gym and walk out unhappy. It's, another thing I've been doing, which it's becoming quite popular now, is like the ice baths. I've actually been going to the sea on a morning. So we've got a Redcar Beach, not far from where I live. So I just go there and do 10 minutes in the sea. And it's, again, that was just one of my friends who'd been doing it. And he'd been through mental health issues and a bit of stress. And when last time I'd seen him, he was on fire with his business was flying. He was really confident. I said, what have you been doing? He said, I just go there every morning. And so I went with him one morning, and I just think you're a lot more productive. You have a lot more of a productive day when I go and dip in the sea than the days I don't. I tend to be a lot more lazy. So that's just another thing. And again, it ties in with fitness.
I find myself when I have a bad day, and if I was to train heavyweight resistant training or high intensive training, it really puts me in a better mood after.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any types of specific exercise that can help you with this resilience with either stress or better mental health?
Not necessarily. I think it's got to be an exercise you enjoy. So if you're already stressed and you go and do something that you're not enjoying, it's not going to help the situation. But if it's something any exercise is going to make you feel better, but always try to stick to something you enjoy. So even me, if I'm having a bad day and I'm really not in the mood for going to the gym, and it means switching up my routine for me to do something I'd if it meant going on the punch bag for an hour. As long as I've gone to the gym and just let that stress off, I'll just go on the punch bag for an hour, but I've still been to the gym. Yeah, I've switched my routine up, but I've done something I enjoy a bit more than just sitting there lifting weights. Or if you haven't got the energy to go on a punch bag and you just want a bit of I find that a bit of a lazy session, I'll just go and lift weights.
Yeah.
So again, it's just like I said, just finding the one that you enjoy. If you do an exercise or a workout routine that you enjoy, you're more likely to stick to it, and it's going to be a lot more sustainable.
I'm a man of routine. I love my routines. I design my day personally how I like to wake up. Yeah. So for instance, I don't keep mobile phones in my room. When I wake up, first thing I do is not my mobile phone. I have coffee, I read for an hour. So I have my whole day planned out how I like to do my things. During COVID, I fell into a bit of a nasty routine where I would eat my dinner while watching TV.
Yeah.
So what I didn't realize at the time was that because I was entertaining myself while eating, I would end up eating a lot more.
Yeah.
So I'm full, but I don't consciously realize, and I want to eat more and more.
Because you're not concentrating on what you're actually doing. So that's another thing we say when you're on a diet, take time out to appreciate the food you're eating. So another good way to do it is if you're dieting as well, a little tip is use a smaller spoon. It's going to take a lot longer to eat the food and you'll eat less.
You'll enjoy the taste every bit.
Yeah, it's just little tips like that. There's loads of little tweaks. Eat volume foods, put more volume foods on your plate, which, you know, what we mean by volume foods is things that are low in calories but high in volume. So if you had a plate full of something that's like high in fats, which are like 1 gram of fat's 9 calories. So if you had a plate full of fat, it's not going to be really a lot of food. But if you put a plate full of veg, salad with a bit of chicken and a bit of rice, that is going to fill you up a lot more. That's what you call a volume meal. It's like, you know, it's a big plate, but there's not many calories in it. You could have chicken, rice and salad for like maybe 400 calories, but believe me, it'd fill you up.
Do you think a lot of people gain weight also perhaps due to stress eating, emotional eating, and so forth?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, a lot of people do, but it's a cycle that you just need to break, because it's like you just said there in COVID, we were locked in a house, you were bored, you've got nothing else to do, you couldn't go out. So you're not going to go and sit at a dinner table when you've got your food ready, the TV's on, you're in the middle of watching something on Netflix. You're just going to sit there and eat, aren't you? And there's a very good chance when you put that plate down, you're going to end up picking up a snack to go with it. I think a lot of people had the same thing in COVID. They either went one way or the other. Some people just went full on into fitness. I think it was just to keep themselves busy because they were used to having a busy life. And some people just went into a comfort zone of just sitting there and just taking advantage and being lazy.
So you did mention that taking smaller bites and a few other tips you mentioned about conscious eating, right? Now, for me personally, I just had to stop watching TV while I eat. So we make separate time for eating. We eat on the dining table. The sofa is not the place to eat.
Yeah, 100%.
So that helped me for my mindful eating. Do you think there are any other tips around any habits that people can incorporate into their day-to-day lifestyle for this mindful eating and not unconsciously just binge eating?
One thing I always suggest is when people think that, I've had a lot of people where they've said, oh, I'm hungry. I'm like, just have a glass of water first, or have a glass of water before your meal. Again, that'll fill the gap a little bit, so you're not going to eat as much. But a lot of, and I was watching a podcast the other day, I can't remember the name of the lady, but she was saying about eating your foods in a certain order. So for example, like eating the veg, the volume foods again, eating these first, then your proteins, then your carbs. And, you know, if you eat them in that order, if you do leave anything off, you're going to be leaving the carbs and you've got the good nutrition into you.
Yeah.
So another tip is, again, that which I didn't mention earlier, was make sure there's plenty of protein on your plate. That will keep you full for longer than a carb will. So one, it's going to help maintain muscle tissue. And secondly, it's going to, like I said, keep you full for longer.
I want to get into a bit of balancing physical fitness with the career. A lot of people are so invested into their business or their career, they do not find the time to get into physical fitness, or rather I should say not find the time, they do not make the time for it, because you can find the time for anything if you prioritize it. So how would you advise someone to find that right balance, or when to get into that habit of physical fitness to make sure both work?
So my advice would be, first of all, do your training before you go to work. Because if you've got a very busy lifestyle, if you've got a business to run, anything can go wrong through the day. Stresses, something's gone wrong with the business, you've had a stressful day. The last priority is going to be the gym after work. If you've done it before you've gone to work, one, you're going to be charged up, you're going to be a lot more motivated, a lot more productive through the day. So do your training before work. That's the first thing I'd recommend. Second thing is activity levels. Implement them into your job. Like, I've got a lot of people who've got like office-based jobs, but they've got a busy lifestyle. And a lot of the time they're on the phone. And I said, what are you doing when you're on your phone? Well, I'm just sat at my desk. Do you need to be sat at your desk? Well, no, so stand up and walk around the room. What are you doing when you're walking? You're burning calories. So these, like, because we set client step goals, and I've had a few clients who, well, I struggle to hit my step goal. So when you're at work, one, park your car a bit further away, a bit more distance to walk to the, you know, these little things that you'd be surprised how much it adds up through the day. Just walking that bit extra, walking around the office, getting up, walking to the coffee machine, you know, instead of letting one of your staff go and get your coffee, get up and walk yourself. Just little tips like that. But the main one for like the training aspect is do it on the morning before work. That's the best tip I could give.
What about someone who's a night owl and cannot wake up, or his schedule is such that he cannot make time in the morning, but evenings? Do you think evenings is achievable, or
Oh, yeah, definitely.
it'll just be short term and
No, it's achievable, but I just set it like, make your training like what you can stick to. So, for example, if you know I can definitely do 3 days, don't be planning 5 days of training. If you know, right, sustainably I can do 3 days a week, I can definitely get to the gym, or if you've got a gym at home or whatever. So make sure that your training for them 3 days is tailored to cover your full body for them 3 days. So do a 3-day training split. So just make sure the training program that you're on is designed for that. You could do a training program that covers you for 2 days a week, 2 days of intense full body training, and it'd be enough as long as your activity levels through the week are sort of active as well. So,
do you know any people that have a very super busy lifestyle due to their career, but are still able to maintain a healthy lifestyle and turn up to the gym daily?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people. I've got a lot of my clients. I mean, some of my clients have got really successful businesses. They work like 15, 16 hours a day sometimes, yet they still manage to, if you see the shape of them, they're in good shape. It depends how much you want it. And, but like I said, when you build it in your lifestyle, it's like I was saying to you about me, if I don't get up and go and have an ice bath now, my day is not as productive. I'm not saying it changed anything, but it just seems to be the way it is. If I don't exercise, I don't feel as good about myself. If I had a week off the gym, I'd probably feel like crap, but because I'm trained regular, it's part of my routine now.
So that person who's got such a busy lifestyle, 15, 16 hours, and is still maintaining a healthy lifestyle, it seems to me that everything that person is doing is what you've just mentioned. Yeah. Find your why, be in calorie deficit or surplus, know your plan.
That's it.
Know when to go to the gym. So it seems to me it's quite black and white. If you want to do it, this is how you do it. People can do it. Yeah. So do you think there are any myths around this fitness industry that lead people astray?
I think the biggest myth is people think you've got to train more than you do. You don't need to spend hours in the gym. You could do 40 minutes 3 times a week in the gym doing strength training, and I think you get really good results from it. As long as the time you spend in there is quality time and you're actually progressively overloading, you're tracking what you're lifting, you're getting stronger each week, you're going to see good results. So it's just using the time that you do have, putting 100% effort into what you're doing.
What about eating before bed? Do you think that's a myth?
Yeah, definitely. So it's, again, you'll constantly hear me on my social media talking about calorie deficit, because this is where people go wrong. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what time you eat, whether you eat in the morning, night, before bed. As long as you're on a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. There's a reason why people in comas lose weight. If someone's in hospital in a coma, they're not eating, they'll come out with their skinny. It's as simple as that. So eating before bed, I don't eat before bed because I find it uncomfortable to sleep, but it's not going to affect your weight loss unless you've eaten more calories than you've burnt that day.
Whilst I was initially starting up in my fitness journey, I would always be told 80% is nutrition, 20% is workout.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that's accurate?
Definitely, yeah. 100%. It's, at the end of the day, like I said to you myself, when I was training and I was out of shape, it's, if you cannot out-train a bad diet, it's as simple as that. If you don't put good fuel into your body and the right amount of fuel, you're not going to see the results. It's as simple as that.
Are there any nutritional changes you made into your lifestyle when you started working out and improving your own physical fitness? Were there any nutritional changes you made into your lifestyle that maybe helped with not only your physical fitness, but also with mental health?
So the main thing is, for me, I think cutting down on sugar definitely made me feel a bit more energetic, like reducing carbs a little bit, increasing my protein intake. They're the things I definitely recommend. So increase your protein intake and just reduce, the processed carbs. It definitely gives you'll tend to find you'll have a lot more energy.
What about things like multivitamins that Costco sells and all these other things?
The good, it depends on, like, obviously, so we get clients who just can't get away with eating veggies, or, so you've got to get your vitamin from something. If you can get it in your food, perfect. If you can't, and it means getting it in a supplement form, then so be it. But at the end of the day, it's always better to get the vitamins and minerals from your food. Even with protein, you hear people saying, do I need protein shakes? Protein shakes are a supplement. So if you can hit your protein goal, then yes, definitely have a protein shake to top up because it's easy to digest, easy to get in. But if you can get all your protein from food, it's definitely better for you.
I think you couldn't have made it more simpler about how to lose weight.
Yeah.
It's simple, calorie deficit.
100%.
That's all. But what about when it comes to gaining muscle?
So gaining muscle, one, progressive overload. So you've got to be working in the gym. Now, what we mean by progressive overload is, there's a lot of people get confused with this as well. They don't know. People say it, but no one knows what it means. So each time you're going to the gym, are you getting stronger? Are you adding weight? I see a lot of people that go to the gym and they've been going for years and they just haven't changed. If you look at the routine, they're lifting the same weight every time they're going. So they're just in that same routine. But if each time you're going, if you're doing bench press and you're increasing the weight, and it doesn't have to be a massive increase. It could be 1 kilo, 2 kilo, and it doesn't always have to be a weight increase. It could be the reps. So for example, if you're benching 100 kilo and you're doing 10 reps and you've been doing it for a few weeks and you push it up to 11 reps, then 12 reps because you haven't got the confidence to add the weight on. So there's two ways you can, progressively overload. One is by increasing the reps and the other one is by increasing the weight. So that's the first factor for gaining muscle. And the second one is making sure you're on the right amount of protein. So, making sure your body's got enough protein coming in to feed and preserve the muscle.
How does one know how much protein their body needs or what their deficit level is, that if they eat below this, they're going to be losing weight?
A lot of it comes down, obviously, each individuals will be different. So you'd have to basically speak to a nutritionist or a dietitian or a coach or someone to give you some sort of guidance. There are apps out there which are very generic. They'll give you a rough guide, but they're not going to be 100%. So they will get you so far. But on average, just as an average example, I like to recommend 1 pound of protein per pound of body weight. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pound, you should be aiming to have 150 grams of protein per day.
That's what, 7 scoops of protein shakes?
And yeah, if you look in protein shakes, but then if you look at it in food, you'll be surprised, how much protein's in food. You can get, these days, you've got yogurts out there with protein built in. You've got the protein mousses, you get pancakes, you've got your normal food, which you've got your chicken, your eggs, your cheeses. You'd be surprised there's protein in everything. So again, when you're looking at the packaging on things, making sure that you're tracking, you'd be surprised how much protein's in certain foods.
So keeping up with the protein, and then you mentioned about the workout, either you're doing more reps, or reduce the reps but lift more weight.
Lift more weight.
Is that powerlifting?
Not necessarily powerlifting. It's just basically increasing the weight that you're lifting, like progressive overload. Powerlifting's obviously when they're going for really big 1 rep maxes and stuff like that. But if you're just going for general population like ourselves and you just want to keep fit and get stronger and build a bit of muscle tissue, then it's just small increases each week. And you always we always have our clients repping between anything from 8 to 15 reps. So it depends on the exercise or the machine that they're using. So average between 8 and 15 reps. And then, so say for example, if I'd said to you, you're doing leg squat rack today. So on the squat rack, you're going to be lifting 100 kilo. You can manage 8 reps. So at 8 reps, I'd stick with the 100 kilo. Once you can get past 12 reps, I'd be recommending you to increase the weight. So just give yourself a sort of a guide where to work. So that's how I do it with my client. I'll tell them start at 8 reps. If you're comfortable with that weight, keep with that weight till you manage to get up to 12 reps. So that might take you a few weeks to reach 12 reps. When you get there, then obviously increase the weight a little bit.
Amazing. I saw one of your case studies where one of your clients lost 38 kilograms of weight within a year without much restriction of food. That was mind-blowing. And a lot of people even listening to this would find that quite astonishing because 38 kilograms is not little. How did you achieve that?
So it was a lady called Sophia. Now she's very fussy with the food. Now it comes back to the same point, calorie deficit. So in reality, if you want to lose weight, you can lose weight eating anything you want as long as you're in a deficit. So what we had to do with Sophia was making sure that, yes, she's sort of eating the food that she enjoys, but we're also introducing stuff that's still giving her a nutrition. So you can eat what you want, but keep an 80-20 rule, similar to what you said earlier. Same with your food. Leave yourself 20% to enjoy food. So you can do it two ways. You could have each day you can eat 80% good, 20% whatever you want, or eat all week good, then have one day where you're going to go and have a treat. But again, you've still got to track your calories. But eating any food, as long as it fits within your calories, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you will definitely lose weight.
I would imagine she would have had to do a lot of intensive cardio and training.
And not really. We increased the steps quite a bit because obviously she was quite big when she started training with us. So a lot of the exercises she struggled with at first. I remember the first day she came in the gym, she wouldn't even take her coat off. She was that uncomfortable. She trained the session, and then just over time, she used to struggle. There were certain exercises she couldn't do. But what you've got to remember, each individual can only push their body to what it's capable of. So even like someone who's 16 stone and someone who's 10 stone, if they go for a walk together, the person who's 16 stone is going to burn more calories than one who's 10 because they're carrying that excess weight. So it's, it's just a case of like I said from the beginning, just taking baby steps, gradually building things into it.
I guess on a final note, what do you think are the most common mistakes that you found in your experience that people tend to make when they join their fitness journey?
Main thing is following fad diets. Instead of they'll jump from one diet to another. Just find one diet that suits. Like we mentioned earlier, like intermittent fasting, or you've got the paleo. There's that many different diets out there, and they all work, but find the one that suits your lifestyle. So, like I said earlier, for me, if I like eating at a certain time and I like to have big meals, intermittent fasting works. That won't work for everybody. So you've got to find the diet that suits the individual and then stick to it consistently. Trust the process. What people have got to remember is you haven't put the weight on overnight. It's not going to come off overnight.
Yeah.
These journeys take time, just like it took you time to put it on. Now it's time to sacrifice. You've had, 2 years, 3 years. Myself, I had 10 years of just eating what I want, not being bothered. So now it's time to spend the next few years sacrificing and putting right what you've put wrong.
It's about, I guess, trusting the process and making a plan behind it.
Yeah. As long as you've got a plan in place, you're going to be successful. If you go into it without a plan, it's very unlikely you're going to be successful with it. And setting yourself, again, a big key factor for me is setting small goals so you've got something to celebrate along the way. The goals aren't just about achieving it. It's like if your goal is to lose 10 kilo over the next 4 months, break it down, 2.5 kilo per month. At the end of each month, when you achieve that 2.5 kilo, you've got something to celebrate.
You reward yourself then?
Yeah, you could say, right, when I hit the 2.5 at the end of this month, I'm going to get myself a bar of chocolate and have a movie night or whatever. Or, it could be a little goal, or it might be like when I hit the next one, I'm going to go and buy myself that outfit because I'll be able to fit into it. Just give yourself them little rewards. It doesn't always have to be food orientated. It could be anything. Just have something to celebrate. Could be something small, could be something big, but as long as you've got something to work towards and you've got a reward at the end of it, you're going to be more successful.
Abdul, I think you have quite simplified the whole journey, how this whole thing can work for someone either wanting to lose weight or someone wanting to gain muscle.
Yeah.
After this, if someone is still confused, I'll be quite surprised. So
Yeah.
it's been very helpful. I'm sure the audience watching this would have found this very helpful as well. So if they want to get in touch with yourself, how do they do that?
So just contact us on Instagram, or you can go to our website, which is absfit.co.uk, or it's at absfit on Instagram, which is ABBZFIT. That's it.
So your details, we will attach it in the description as well in the YouTube video. So I'd like to thank you again.
Yeah.
And
Been a pleasure.
So guys, the details will be in the description below. Do like, subscribe, check out Abdul on his Instagram and give him a follow as well. And we'll see you in the next one.